ஹலோம்மா, நமஸ்காரம். நான் ராஜ்குமார் பாரதி பேசுகிறேன். பாரதி இருக்காங்களே மேட்டூரில், இந்த பாரதியை பற்றி பேசுகிறேன். அவன் வந்து என்னோட ரொம்ப நாள் நண்பர். அந்த மாதிரி செய்தி சொல்லியிருந்தாங்க. நீங்கள் இந்த கீதா மேடமும் உஷா ராஜகோபாலும் இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ப்ரோக்ராம் இருக்குது, தே கோயிங் டு பே ஹோமேஜ் டு பாரதி. இந்த மாதிரி அவங்களோட இங்கிலீஷ் டிரான்ஸ்லேஷன் யாரோ பண்ணி நீங்கள் ஒருத்தர் பண்ணி அதை சொல்லிவிட்டு அதே மாதிரி அதனுடைய ஒரு தமிழ் ஒரிஜினலையும் பண்ண போகிறீங்க அப்படின்னு கேள்விப்பட்டேன். ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம். பாரதி மேலே உங்களுக்கு இருக்கிற ஈடுபாடு, அந்த அன்பு நான் ரொம்ப பாராட்டுறேன். ஐ ரியலி அப்ரிஷியேட் யுவர் ரெஸ்பெக்ட் அண்ட் ரிகார்ட் அண்ட் லவ் ஃபார் பாரதி. நல்லா நடக்கட்டும் இந்த ஈவினிங் நிகழ்ச்சிமா. வாழ்த்துக்கள்.
Good evening and welcome all of you to what promises to be a wonderful evening. 100 years ago on this date, a flame was extinguished. Mahakavi Subramania Bharati was unfortunately taken away from us at a young age of 38. But his poetry, his thoughts, his philosophy, what he stood for, what he means to a lot of us will never die. Today, we are fortunate to be in the company of two wonderful people, Usha and Geetha. Usha, most of you might know, has published two works based on Bharati's poetry, both published by Hachette. And Geetha, who comes from a musical family, counts Bharati's songs as some of her favorite music. So today it's a chance for us to remember the poet, his life, his works, his legacy, and what it means to us all, and what it probably means to us as Indians for the next century and more to follow. So with that short introduction, I want to thank Usha and Geetha for doing this. The last time we did this in Atta Galata, it was a wonderful live performance with all the live energy that we could muster. Unfortunately, given the circumstances, virtual is how we can do it. I thank you for doing this virtually, and I thank all of you who are currently connected for being part of this evening. And over to you, and looking forward to a wonderful evening of Bharati, his poetry and his works.
Thank you very much, Subodh. I'm not a singer like Geetha, but I'm still going to try out a couple of songs, my dear friends. So forgive me for mistakes. வெள்ளை தாமரை பூவிலிருப்பாள், வீணை செய்யும் ஒலியில் இருப்பாள், வெள்ளை தாமரை. You know, the goddess of learning, Saraswati, is not seen only on the white lotus or in the music of in the Veenai, but also she was there in Bharati. He was a child prodigy. At a very, very young age, he lost his mother. He was brought up by his father. What he loved to do was to live, hear, see music all around him. At a very young age, he was given to writing, or rather reciting poems of his own. And his grandfather introduced him to Tamil literature. His father, Chinnaswamy Iyer, obviously wanted the boy to focus less on music, on poetry, and more in arithmetic and English. He hoped that the boy, Subbaya as he was called, would become an engineer, get a good job, and earn lots of money. Because that is what he himself tried to do, Chinnaswamy Iyer, living in Attayapuram. He tried to bring about a number of technological innovations. Unfortunately for him, everything failed. So he wanted at least his son to be, as I said, an engineer who can earn lots of money. But What Bharati loved to do was not attend the class, but look out of the window and see the leaves fluttering and hears music in that. Later on, he was to understand the importance of education. And he even wrote about a song about this, the one that I sang just now. I'll read out the English first, and Geetha will follow it up with the Tamil rendering. The goddess of learning. The hallowed white lotus is her abode. She is also heard in the Veena's note. In the sensitive poet's heart she dwells, at whose true verses our happiness wells. Her glory shines in the Vedas sacred, the holy texts with the truth learned. She is the meaning, the quintessence of the kind words of virtuous saints. In the sweet songs of women you hear her, and in a child's naive, lisping chatter. Her voice trills in the cuckoo's soft cooing. She sets the tongue of the parrot wagging. Her grace heightens the beauty of paintings. Fine carvings on temples have her blessings. Everything she touches shows perfection. She is the embodiment of genuine elation. How do we supplicate winner grace? By having art forms in each dwelling place, setting up a school or two in each locality, more in every town, city, throughout the country. Let every place have its own center of learning. If not, that evil town's only fit for burning. Raze it to the ground, show no bit of mercy. This will make her, the evil slayer, happy. In ancient Greece and land of the Han, in the great country of the rising sun, the distant wide land of the small Chinese, in the cluster of wealthy Arab countries, in Turkey, Egypt, and kingdoms African, and those which are beyond the wide ocean, and farther away, in each and every nation, let Ma Saraswati's glory shine like a beacon. Know you, born in a land with a hoary history, Bharat stands for great learning and mastery. A native of this nation, unwilling to learn, is making a big mistake. It's of great concern. Living on earth like animals, unschooled and wild, by any stretch of reason, can it be called a life? But there is still time for us to forget the past, to correct our flaws and set us on the right path. You may be wondering, how come I am reading so much? Actually, this poem is much longer, but typically when singers sing Bharati songs, they just choose a couple of stanzas. And here Geetha is going to give us the Tamil original.
Thank you, Usha. வெள்ளை தாமரை பூவில் இருப்பாள், வீணை செய்யும் ஒலியில் இருப்பாள். வெள்ளை தாமரை பூவில் இருப்பாள், வீணை செய்யும் ஒலியில் இருப்பாள். கொள்ளை இன்பம் குலவு கவிதை கூறு பாவல உள்ள திருப்பாள். கொள்ளை இன்பம் குலவு கவிதை கூறு பாவல உள்ள திருப்பாள். வெள்ளை தாமரை பூவில் இருப்பாள், வீணை செய்யும் ஒலியில் இருப்பாள். உள்ளதா பொருள் தேடி உணர்ந்தே வாசகதூர் பொருளாவாள் கள்ளமற்ற முனிவர்கள் கூறும் கருணை வாசகதூர் பொருளாவாள் வெள்ளை தாமரை பூவிலிருப்பாள் வீணை செய்யும் ஒலியில் இருப்பாள் மாத தீங்குரல் பாட்டில் இருப்பாள் மக்கள் பேசும் மழலையில் உள்ளாள் மாதர் தீங்குரல் பாட்டில் இருப்பாள் மக்கள் பேசும் மழலையில் உள்ளாள் கீதம் பாடும் குயிலின் குரலை கிளியில் நாவை இருப்பிடம் கொண்டாள் கீதம் பாடும் குயிலின் குரலை கிளியின் நாவை இருப்பிடம் கொண்டாள் கோதகன்ற தொழிலுடைத்தாகி குலவு சித்திரம் கோபுரம் கோயில் கோதகன்ற தொழிலுடைத்தாகி குலவு சித்திரம் கோபுரம் கோயில் ஈதனை தின் எழிலுடையூற்றாள் இன்பமே வடிவாகிட பெற்றாள் ஈதனை தின் எழிலுடையூற்றாள் இன்பமே வடிவாகிட பெற்றாள் வெள்ளை தாமரை பூவில் இருப்பாள் வீணை செய்யும் ஒலியில் இருப்பாள்
In an attempt to infuse some sense of responsibility into his son, Chinnaswamy Iyer got Subbaiah married by the age of 14. By then, he had already changed his name to Bharati. This happened because at the age of about 11, one of the things that Bharati loved to do was, as I said, not attend classes, but attend join the assembly of scholars and poets in the court of the Maharaja of Ettayapuram. And there he would recite his poetry. His father knew about all this. He kept track of his son, but he was not at all happy. And more so when the young boy Subbaiah at the age of 11, after one such recitation in the Maharaja's court, conferred the title of Bharati on him. And the father feared that there was now no stopping the boy. So at the age of 14, he got him married to a little girl, about half his age, Chellamma, about 7 years old. And the wedding was a very elaborate one. Those days, the weddings used to happen for over 4-6 days. You know, you can imagine kids getting married and having a lot of fun. But the problem with this particular wedding was that Bharati sang love songs to his little bride, much to the embarrassment of this little girl, Chellamma, who wished that her husband would be like any other man, you know. She didn't want people to look at him like, where has he come from? What is he doing? Singing songs publicly to his wife to be. Chellamma was an inspiration to Bharati throughout his life. And he has written some beautiful love songs. I'm going to recite one very, very popular song to you. Suttam Videshwaradan Kannamma. This is, of course, Bharati visualizes Bhagavan and Sri Krishna in the Mohini Avatara, and he sings this song to him. Kannamma, my beloved. These bright burning eyes, Kannamma, are they the sun and the moon? These round black eyes, Kannamma, do they mirror the dark firmament? The sparkling diamonds strewn on your sable silk, are the stars set in the midnight sky? Are those flowers blooming in the grove? Or is it that lovely smile of yours? The waves in the deep blue sea up at the surging beats of your heart. In the sweetness of your voice is the charm of a cuckoo's song. Tender virgin that you are, Kannamma, how I yearn to hug you close. You talk of rituals and rites, Kannamma. Why do we need any? For those possessed, Kannamma, are there any rules at all? Let the wedding take place later in the midst of our elders. Can I wait till then? Here, my dear, is a kiss on your cheek tender. Incidentally, this was the first poem that I started translating. I wanted to include this in a particular novel where I'm describing Udupi Sri Krishna temple on a Friday in Mohini Avatara, and I didn't come across quite the right translation, so I started off. So this poem is particularly favorite to me, and I'm using this occasion to recite it for the first time. And now, Geetha, please sing the song.
சுற்றும் விழிச்சுடர்தான் கண்ணம்மா சூரிய சந்திரரோ வட்ட கரிய விழி கண்ணம்மா வானக்கருமை கொள்ளோ பட்டுக்கரு நீல புடவை பதித்த நல்வயிரம் பட்டுக்கரு நீல புடவை பதித்த நல்வயிரம் நட்ட நடுநிசியில் தெரியும் நட்சத்திரங்களடி சோலை மலரொளியோ நினது சுந்தர புன்னகைதான் சோலை மலரொளியோ நினது சுந்தர புன்னகைதான் நீலக்கடலையே நினது நெஞ்சினலைகளடி கோல குயிலோசை உனது குரலின் இனிமையடி கோல குயிலோசை உனது குரலின் இனிமையடி வாலை குமரியடி கண்ணம்மா மறுவ காதல் கொண்டேன் வாலை குமரியடி கண்ணம்மா மறுவ காதல் கொண்டேன் சாத்திரம் பேசுகிறாய் கண்ணம்மா சாத்திரம் ஏதுக்கடி சாத்திரம் பேசுகிறாய் கண்ணம்மா சாத்திரம் ஏதுக்கடி ஆத்திரம் கொண்டவர்க்கே கண்ணம்மா சாத்திரம் உண்டோடி ஆத்திரம் கொண்டவர்க்கே கண்ணம்மா சாத்திரம் உண்டோடி மூத்தவர் சம்மதியில் வதுவை முறைகள் பின்பு செய்வோம் மூத்தவர் சம்மதியில் வதுவை முறைகள் பின்பு செய்வோம் காத்திருப்பேனோடி இது பா கன்னத்து முத்தம் ஒன்று காத்திருப்பேனோடி இது பா கன்னத்து முத்தம் ஒன்று
So Bharati clearly was very, very human, very romantic, and he's newly married. What will a young couple actually want? They will want a life for themselves. They will want a patch of land. This particular poem is again a very, very famous one. It's Kani Nilam Vendum Parashakti. Bhardiyar was a very staunch devotee of Parashakti, perhaps because he lost his mother at a very young age. And he has written several songs in praise of Parashakti. This one is addressed to her. A patch of land I want, Parashakti. Give me a patch of land. On that patch of land, Parashakti, I want a house built for me. Its pillars decorated, Parashakti, and balconies painted white. Palm trees beside the well, Parashakti, with long fronds and tender nuts, 10 or 12. Those palms, Parashakti, the coconut trees I want nearby. Moonlight should descend gently, Parashakti, casting a gleaming veil of white. The soft cooing of the cuckoo, Parashakti, should fall lightly on my ears. A gentle breeze should blow, Parashakti, and bring pleasure to my soul. A young wife, I want, Parashakti, to share all these with me. Our joyful togetherness, Parashakti, blessed with poetry, living in that open land, Parashakti, be there to guard us. With the power of my songs, Parashakti, enable me to defend this earth. With the power of my songs, Parashakti, enable me to defend this earth.
காணி நிலம் வேண்டும் பராசக்தி காணி நிலம் வேண்டும் காணி நிலம் வேண்டும் பராசக்தி காணி நிலம் வேண்டும் அங்கு தூணில் அழகியதாய் நன்மாடங்கள் துய்ய நிறத்தினதாய் அங்கு தூணில் அழகியதாய் நன்மாடங்கள் துய்ய நிறத்தினதாய் அந்த காணி நிலத்திடையே ஓர் மாளிகை கட்டித்தர வேண்டும் அங்கு கேணி அருகினிலே தென்னை மர கீற்றும் இளநீரும் 10-12 தென்னை மரம் பக்கத்திலே வேண்டும் 10-12 தென்னை மரம் பக்கத்திலே வேணும் நல்ல முத்துச்சுடர் போலே நிலா ஒளி முன்பு வர வேணும் நல்ல முத்துச்சுடர் போலே நிலா ஒளி முன்பு வர வேணும் அங்கு கத்தும் குயிலோசை சற்றே வந்து காதிற்பட வேணும் என்றன் சித்தம் மகிழ்ந்திடவே நன்றாயிலும் தென்றல் வர வேணும் பாட்டு கலந்திடவே அங்கே ஒரு பத்தினி பெண் வேணும் பாட்டு கலந்திடவே அங்கே ஒரு பத்தினி பெண் வேணும் எங்கள் கூட்டுகளினிலே கவிதைகள் கொண்டு தர வேணும் எங்கள் கூட்டுகளினிலே கவிதைகள் கொண்டு தர வேணும் அந்த காட்டு வெளியினிலே அம்மா நின்றன் காவலுற வேணும் என்றன் பாட்டு திறத்தாலே இவ்வையத்தை பாலித்திட வேணும் காணி நிலம் வேண்டும் பராசக்தி காணி நிலம் வேண்டும் காணி நிலம் வேண்டும்
Bharati, the irresponsible, the poetic, the mystic, the boy, had to grow up because his father died within a year of his wedding, after Bharati got married. And now the responsibility of managing the home and the household fell on his shoulders. In order to complete his education, Bharati went to Banaras, where his aunt lived. He stayed with her. He completed his education with distinction. And he returned to Ettayapuram, but it was a world that he was not going to be happy with at all. Because in Banaras, he was exposed to a completely different culture. He learned more languages. He came across thinkers, far from hating English that he was forced to study in the English medium school. He became exposed to English literature, especially Shelley, to the extent that he called himself Shelley Dasan and wrote lyrics, much like Shelley's poetry. So this was a cultural shock, and he came back to Ettayapuram, back to the service of the Maharaja, but it hurt him to think that he was paying tribute to a Maharaja when there's so many things happening in Bharat, in his beloved country. And he left the job. He must have earned the wrath of the Maharaja by joining Madurai school as a temporary capacity as a teacher. And then, fortunately for him, somebody said, why don't you join Swadesa Mitran as an assistant editor? And this was sometime in 1904. Okay. So he joined Swadesa Mitran, and then he met a sister Nivedita, who was another who exploded lots of ideas in him. He became conscious about the importance of education, the importance of eradicating caste, about educating women, giving them their rightful place in society. And there was also another new magazine called India, in which Bharati's job as the editor was to translate the speeches of all these political leaders into Tamil and publish. Now, what he did was to write in a language which was easily understood by the man on the street. Okay, so Bharati's language became very simple, very clear, very direct, and that was the influence which he carried over into his poetry as well. He wrote a number of songs, of which in his poetic canon, perhaps the political songs will occupy a much huge range, because here he talked about love for his motherland, love for Tamil Nadu. He wrote poems about praising the national leaders, even talking about the political problems in other countries. He was pleading, he was cajoling, he was furious. He wanted Indians to rise up against the British and drive them out. And some of his poems are so powerful. நெஞ்சு பொறுக்குதில்லையே இந்த நிலைகட்ட மனிதரை நினைத்து விட்டால் அஞ்சி அஞ்சி சாவார் இவர் அஞ்சாத பொருளிலே அவனியிலே. It is very difficult in English to capture that kind of a power, you know. So mine is a very, very pale attempt, but this is how I've translated it. The plight of present-day Indians. How my heart aches when I think of these spineless, irresolute people. They will fear this, they will fear that. There is nothing in the world they do not fear. Look, ghosts of frauds, they will say, there on that tree, no, in that pond. Hanging up there, they will declare, shivering at the thought, full of scare. Sorcerer, they will say, and convulse in horror. Spells, chants, and witchcraft. Several thousands are their fears. They quake at the sovereign's rule as if he is a monster dreadful, not realizing that with their bounty, the anointed king protects the country. Blind to the scriptures, they will believe and act on the words of pseudo-seers. One from their own clan they will outcast because his thoughts differ from theirs. Singing paeans, they will hasten to obey the traitors, plotting their very ruin. Angrily, they will call one a Shiva devotee, another a Vishnu votary, and quarrel bitterly. My heart breaks, and yet endlessly do I think of them. I cannot hate them. Not a grain they have to eat, and not a clue to why they starve. Famine, grinding poverty, daily drains their lifeblood away. Pitiful is their plight, but then there is nothing one can do for them. Ailments afflict them by the score, leaving them too weak to get up and walk. Like sightless children, they let others lead them into trouble and misery. Born in a sacred land like ours, home to myriad fine arts, like churlish animals they reside, devoid of all senses refined. நெஞ்சு பொறுக்கதில்லையே இந்த நிலைகட்ட மனிதரை நினைத்து விட்டால். So strong was the love of his country, his heritage, the culture, the language, the brotherhood. All these things were what he wanted to express through his poems, for not just for his times, but for all eternity. If this particular song is so powerful in the tone, the scorn, the accusation, here is another one in which he pleads to Mother India, awake, because it's morning, the day has broken. Awake, Mother India. பொழுது புலர்ந்தது யாம் செய்த தவத்தால். The day breaks. Our efforts bear fruit finally. The darkness of ignorance fades into the air. The radiant sun of knowledge rises steadily, casting its luminous golden rays everywhere. Your devotees wait patiently, gathered in thousands to offer their prayers, deeply felt. And yet, Mother, you are still awake? You are still asleep? Awake, rouse yourself. Birds are chirping, booming drums resonate. The freedom song echoes joyfully everywhere. Hear the loud sounds white conches make. Our mothers wait for you in every thoroughfare. Pious Brahmins are chanting from the scripture. They invoke your blessed name as well. Light of our lives, essence of sweet nectar, Mother dearest, open your eyes, bestir yourself. The brilliant light of the sun we see in the sky, the radiance of your eyes we seek on earth. We come to you with hopes alive, to lay our hearts like flowers at your feet. Steeped in the Vedas, sacred words in millions, pour from your lips with ease, dear Mother. Your trident scares the dreadful demons. Open your eyes, O purest of the pure. When her child calls, will her mother keep sleeping? Can she be stone-hearted to her young one's pleas? Will the mother of a nation remain unaware? I ask you, Queen of Bharat, our great country, paeans in your praise we sing loud and clear in 18 languages, each as sweet as the others. Arise, O you who gave birth to us. Arise, and with your reign bless us. Arise, arise. Geetha?
பொழுது புலர்ந்தது யாம் செய்த தவத்தால் புண்மையுருட்கணம் போயின யாவும் எழு பசும் போர்ச்சுடர் எங்கனும் பரவி எழுந்து விளங்கியது அறிவெனும் இரவி தொழுதுனை வாழ்த்தி வணங்குதற்கு இங்குமுன் தொண்டர் பல்லாயிரர் சூழ்ந்து நிற்கின்றோம் விழி துயில்கின்றனை இன்னும் எம் தாயே வியப்பிது காண் பள்ளி எழுந்தருளாயே வியப்பிது காண் பள்ளி எழுந்தருளாயே புள்ளின மாத்தன ஆர்த்தன முரசம் பொங்கிய எங்கும் சுதந்திரநாதம் புள்ளின மார்த்தன ஆர்த்தன முரசம் பொங்கிய எங்கும் சுதந்திரநாதம் வெள்ளிய சங்கம் முழங்கின கேளாய் எள்ளிய சங்கம் முழங்கின கேளாய் வீதியெல்லாம் அணுகூற்றனர் மாதர் தெள்ளிய அந்தணர் வேதமும் நின்றன் சீதிருநாமமும் ஓதி நிற்கின்றார் அள்ளிய தெள்ளமுதன்னையமன்னை அள்ளிய தெள்ளமுதன்னையமன்னை ஆருயிரே பள்ளி எழுந்தருளாயே ஆருயிரே பள்ளி எழுந்தருளாயே
With all the vitriol that Bharati was pouring on the British, not surprisingly, they were hounding him. They wanted to arrest him, and the advice of his friends, Bharati fled as a political fugitive to Pondicherry. There too, the little livelihood as the editor that he had was now deprived. He was in more worse financial straits than ever. Even there, the British did not really leave him alone, you know. So they told his landlord, evict him. He's already without any money, evict him, and then he will come back to line. So the landlord told Bharati, overnight you just get out. And Bharati was absolutely shocked. He didn't know what to do. But it is his good fortune that every time he's in some dire straits like this, somebody or the other will come to help him out. And that day, it so happened that morning he was sitting outside the house. He was wondering, oh my God, isn't there a way out of this? What do I do? And just then a friend of his came around. Krishnamacharya. He asked him, why are you sitting here? What's the problem? And when Bharati explained to him, see, my landlord has asked me to get out and I don't know what to do. So the friend said, that's it, that's all. I'll arrange for you. And Bharati felt so immensely grateful that immediately he wrote one line. Engirdo vandan, idai jadi naan entran. This has been used in a very famous old film song. Engirdo vandan, idai jadi naan entran. I'm sure many of you would have heard this. Just for the benefit of those who don't know Tamil, the translations, he came from somewhere, shepherd boy, he called himself. As you would have seen already from the poems that we have recited and Geetha has sung, there's so much of relevance in Bharati's words even today. And this particular song, he has addressed Krishnan as Sevakam. And he describes the problems that servants give us and without whom we can do absolutely nothing. High wages they will demand, heedless of all from us they have got. If their chores are piled up, quietly they will stay back. Why did you come to work yesterday? When we ask, a scorpion lurking in a pot bit me with its teeth, they will retort. Or that my wife was possessed by a demon. The 12th day it was of my grandmother's funeral rites. Lies upon lies they will stack, and at our bidding do otherwise. The troubles servants cause us are truly innumerable, and yet without them we are not able to handle. Thus, when I was steeped in great distress one day, he came from somewhere. Shepherd boy, he called himself, his body robust and sturdy, eyes shining with goodness, and the words he spoke which bound me to him, all filled me with joy that I had found the right help. You talk a lot and claim several things, but tell me, what wages do you seek? I asked. I have neither a wife nor children to feed. Though my hair is still black and I have no wrinkles, there is no count for the number of my years gone by. It is enough if you treat this servant with regard, he said. It is not money that I want, but love for me in your heart. From then on, growing steadily by the day, is Kannan's love for us, I swear. No words can tell the wondrous good he has done us all. Like eyelids that guard one's eyes, he takes care of me and my family. Not a complaint or grumble have I heard from his lips. He cleans the house and sweeps the path. He even sets right the mistakes made by the maids. A teacher to the children, motherly caregiver, a doctor, and to me he is a friend, mentor, a good teacher, divine in nature, and looking like a servant. He came from somewhere. Shepherd boy, he called himself. What noble deed on earth have I done to get him? இங்குவனை யான் பெறவே என்ன தவம் செய்து விட்டேன் எங்கிருந்தோ வந்தான் கண்ணன் என் சேவகன். The British tried one more trick to lure Bharati back to Madras so that they could promptly arrest him. So once they sent a man to tell Bharati that the arrest warrant against him has been lifted. So this man, a total stranger, he goes to Bharati's house and Chellama watches. She doesn't interfere. She sees them going to the terrace upstairs and talking. And then after a little while, Bharati just leaves with the man. Chellama is scared to ask, where are you going? When will you be back? She just watches them leave the house. 2 days later, a friend of theirs brings Bharati back and he explains to Chellama what happened. The man was an informer set by the British to tell Bharati that the arrest warrant has been lifted. So Bharati believes him and he goes with him. Fortunately for him, this friend and advocate, he comes from the opposite direction. He sees the car, he recognizes the informer and stops the car and brings Bharati back to the safety of his home in Pondicherry. 2 days later, or rather, few days later, the informer comes back home again. Chellama is furious. Her face is red. Her eyes are shooting knives at him. At this man. Bharati sees his wife in such anger and he sings this song to her. Pagaivanukku arulvai nannenje, pagaivanukku arulvai. Show mercy to the enemy, kindly heart. Show mercy to the enemy. In the thick of smoke, there is fire. We have seen this on earth, kindly heart. We have seen this on earth. In the midst of enmity, God dwells as love. God dwells as love, kindly heart. God dwells as love. A lucent pearl can be found nestled within an oyster shell. Don't you know that, kindly heart? Growing in the midst of refuse, can the Madhavi creeper bloom in profusion, kindly heart? When falsehood creeps into the mind, can the mind be at peace, kindly heart? If a little poison is added to pure honey, can it still be called honey, kindly heart? Even the tiger that threatens to devour us, you can win over with love, kindly heart. When Ma Parashakti appears as a tiger, bow to her, kindly heart. Bow to her. Geetha?
பகைவனுக்கருள்வாய் நன்னெஞ்சே பகைவனுக்கருள்வாய் நன்னெஞ்சே பகைவனுக்கருள்வாய் நன்னெஞ்சே பகைவனுக்கருள்வாய் புகை நடுவினில் தீருப்பதை பூமியில் கண்டோமே நன்னெஞ்சே பூமியில் கண்டோமே பகை நடுவினில் அன்புருவானனம் பரமன் வாழ்கின்றான் நன்னெஞ்சே பரமன் வாழ்கின்றான் சிப்பியிலே நல்ல முத்து விளைந்திடும் செய்தி அறியாயோ நன்னெஞ்சே செய்தி அறியாயோ குப்பையிலே மலர் கொஞ்சும் குறுக்கத்தி கொடி வளராதோ குறுக்கத்தி கொடி வளராதோ நன்னெஞ்சே நன்னெஞ்சே உள்ள நிறைவிலோர் கள்ளம் புகுந்திடில் உள்ளம் நிறைவாமோ நன்னெஞ்சே உள்ளம் நிறைவாமோ தெள்ளிய தேனில் ஓர் சிறிது நஞ்சையும் சேர்த்த பின் தேனாமோ நன்னெஞ்சே சேர்த்த பின் தேனாமோ வாழ்வை நினைத்த பின் தாழ்வை நினைப்பது வாழ்வுக்கு நேராமோ நன்னெஞ்சே வாழ்வுக்கு நேராமோ தாழ்வு பிறர்க்கு என்ன தானழிவான் என்ற சாத்திரம் கேளாயோ நன்னெஞ்சே சாத்திரம் கேளாயோ தின்னவரும் புலி தன்னையும் அன்போடு சிந்தையில் போற்றிடுவாய் நன்னெஞ்சே சிந்தையில் போற்றிடுவாய் அன்னை பராசக்தி உருவாயினள் அவளை கும்பிடுவாய் நன்னெஞ்சே அவளை கும்பிடுவாய் அன்னை பராசக்தி உருவாயினள் அவளை கும்பிடுவாய் நன்னெஞ்சே அவளை கும்பிடுவாய் பகைவனுக்கருள்வாய் நன்னெஞ்சே பகைவனுக்கருள்வாய் புகை நடுவினில் தீருப்பதை பூமியில் கண்டோமே நன்னெஞ்சே பூமியில் கண்டோமே பகை நடுவினில் அன்புருவானனம் பரமன் வாழ்கின்றார் நன்னெஞ்சே பரமன் வாழ்கின்றான்
You would have already heard a lot, read a lot about Bharati, and you know that what a creative genius, what a legend in his lifetime he was. And his magic, his reach is so strong even today. And yet for all this, he was constantly looking to improve himself, to subdue the ego within him, to make himself a better man so that he can serve his beloved country. He can be of greater use to his people. And this is a very, very poignant song, which, really has brought tears to people's eyes. Nallador Veenai Seide, in search of answers. Will anyone ever make a good Veenai only to throw it in the dust and spoil it? Pray tell me, Shiva Shakti, you created me with an illuminated mind. Will you not empower me to be useful to society? Am I destined instead to be a burden on earth? Tell me, Shiva Shakti. Like a ball that bounces when it is thrown, I'd asked for a body that obeys the will of the mind, for a heart that is pure without a stain, for a life that shines with a constant glow, for the strength to sing praises of you, Shiva Shakti, even when my body is set on fire. I'd asked for an unwavering mind. What stops you, tell me, from granting me these? Solladi, Shiva Shakti.
நல்லதோர் வீணை செய்தே அதை நலம் கெட புழுதியில் எறிவதுண்டோ நல்லதோர் வீணை செய்தே அதை நலம் கெட புழுதியில் எறிவதுண்டோ சொல்லடி சிவசக்தி என்னை சுடர்மிகும் அறிவுடல் படைத்து விட்டாய் சொல்லடி சிவசக்தி என்னை சுடர்மிகும் அறிவுடல் படைத்து விட்டாய் நல்லதோர் வீணை செய்தே அதை நலம் கெட புழுதியில் எறிவதுண்டோ வல்லமையே தாராயோ இந்த மாநிலம் பயனுற வாழ்வதற்கே சொல்லடி சிவசக்தி நீல சுமையன வாழ்ந்திட உரிகுவையோ நல்லதோர் வீணை செய்தே அதை நலம் கெட புழுதியில் எறிவதுண்டோ வீசையுறு பந்தினை போல் உள்ளம் வேண்டியபடி செல்லும் உடல் கேட்டேன் நசையறு மனம் கேட்டேன் நித்தம் நவமென சுடர் தரும் உயிர் கேட்டேன் நல்லதோர் வீணை செய்தே அதை நலம் கெட புழுதியில் எறிவதுண்டோ தசையினை தீ சுடினும் சிவ சக்தியை பாடும் நல் அகம் கேட்டேன் அசைவரு மதி கேட்டேன் இவை அருள்வதில் உனக்கெதும் தடையுள்ளதோ சொல்லடி சிவசக்தி என்னை சுடர்மிகும் அறிவுடல் படைத்து விட்டாய் நல்லதோர் வீணை செய்தே அதை நலம் கெட புழுதியில் எறிவதுண்டோ
In 1918, Bharati came back to Madras. He got so fed up after 10 years of living as a political fugitive. He just came back to Madras and he was promptly arrested by the British. For about a month or maybe a little less than that, he was in jail and his friends bailed him out. And, he has always lived his life in great penury. And he went and lived with his wife's family home, parental home in Kadayam. And there, but his nature did not change actually, because he was even more talking about liberation for the country, women's emancipation, caste divide, and he even held the Upanayanam of a Dalit boy, initiating him into Brahmanhood. All these made him a laughing stock, and his community ostracized him. They called him Pitan. You're mad, he's a madcap. So once his elder daughter came back to him in tears, saying that, Appa, everybody is calling you a Pitan, and are you mad? Then he laughed and he said, look, Pitan also is another name for Lord Shiva. So he pulled out his harmonium and then he sang this song. It's called Kilipattu. It's a couplets, it's sung in a very simple tune, and the girl was enchanted and more accepting. That she realized her father is not mad after all. Anybody who can create poetry like this at the drop of the hat can only be a genius like Bharati. Song sung to a parrot. Praying to the Supreme and working diligently, heedless of what is in store for us, let us be happy. Destiny rules that tireless work will one day be rewarded. When we know this, little bird, why are we despondent? Love will erase thoughts of fear, fatigue, and all trials. Don't you know, feathered friend, that love is eternal? If we seek the blessing, little bird of the fiery sun, and live with no prejudice, we will live to be 1,000. If we pray to Subramania, the pure, the heart of light, will any sorrow dare touch us, bird, or any blight? Geetha?
திருவை பணிந்து நித்தம் செம்மை தொழில் புரிந்து வருக வருவதென்றே கிளியே வருக வருவதென்றே கிளியே மகிழ்வுற்றிரு போமடி கிளியே மகிழ்வுற்றிரு போமடி கிளியே மகிழ்வுற்றிரு போமடி வெற்றி செயலுக்குண்டு விதியின் நியமம் என்று கற்று தெளிந்த பின்னும் கிளியே கவலைப்படலாகுமோ கிளியே கவலைப்படலாகுமோ துன்ப நினைவுகளும் சோர்வும் பயமும் எல்லாம் அன்பில் அழியுமடி கிளியே அன்பு கழிவில்லை காண் ஞாயிற்றை எண்ணி என்றும் நடுமை நிலை பயின்று 1000 ஆண்டுலகில் கிளியே அழிவின்றி வாழ்வோமடி கிளியே அழிவின்றி வாழ்வோமடி தூய பெருங்கடலை சுப்பிரமணியனை நேயத்துடன் பணிந்தால் கிளியே நேயத்துடன் பணிந்தால் கிளியே நெருங்கி துயர் வருமோ கிளியே நெருங்கி துயர் வருமோ கிளியே நெருங்கி துயர் வருமோ நெருங்கி துயர் வருமோ மகிழ்வுற்றிரு போமடி.
2 years of trying to get his poetry published and trying to earn a livelihood from poetry. Bharati couldn't succeed. In December 1920, he rejoins Swadesamitran as assistant editor, the same position that he was in from November 1904. Come back to the same position, the same work. Years of hunger, poverty had really weakened him. But his spirits were very, very high, and he remained very, very religious and a great devotee. In July 1921, he visited the Parthasarathi temple in Triplicane, and as was his wont, he offered food to the elephant, fruit to the elephant. That day, unfortunately, the elephant was in mast, so it caught him in its trunk and was about to throw him down, was about to stamp on him, when again one of his friends came to the rescue, Kuvalai Kannan. He literally ran between the feet of the elephant and pulled Bharati to safety. But that shock, years of deprivation, years of physical stress and mental trauma took their toll on him. And on 12th of September, early hours of 12th September 1921, he gave up the fight. And we lost the genius. But his poetry lived on. They will continue to inspire generations after generations, I'm very sure, because as long as Tamil language lives, so long will Bharati's fame persist. You and me, being very ordinary mortals, we cannot aspire to have even a percentage of his ability, but at least we can learn from the wisdom of his immortal lines and we can follow them in our day-to-day lives. May his vision bring our people together and make our country a truly great, strong nation. Jai Hind, Jai Bharati. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Usha. Thank you, Geetha, for that wonderful hour of Bharati's poetry. The way you went through the program talking about his life and the various aspects of his life and what inspired his poetry at various times in his life was fantastic to hear. And I thank everyone that attended this program, and I hope you had a wonderful time just like I did. Thank you so much.